This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Thanks very much for tuning into Unmissable. I'm Nabila Jamal right here on News9. We take you through news from India and across the globe. Our top focus, of course, the GST reforms. Huge relief to the common man. We will be discussing extensively on what gets cheaper and what gets expensive. Even the most expensive is not so expensive as it was in the previous round of the GST. So this is truly a welcome move by the central government. We will break that down for you. And of course, we will delve into organ transplant for mortality, a suggestion given by Putin to Xi Jinping. If you want to live longer, you can live longer with an organ transplant. This is a leaked conversation that's now come out, almost suggesting what's on the mind of Putin and Xi. They want to live longer. It also has diplomatic connotations here. We will take you through whether it's really possible with an organ transplant to live a healthy, long life as Putin would wish. And of course, finally, West Bengal Assembly going into high drama. We saw quite some ruckus with marshals being brought in by the Mamata Banerjee government to march out some of the BJP MLAs who the TMC blames of creating ruckus and throwing bottles inside the house. We will show you images, as always, the headlines first. Prime Minister Modi hails GST reforms, accuses Congress of making common man's life tougher during its rule. Siddaramaiah and family gets a clean chit in Muda case as cabinet clears Desai report. One-man judicial commission finds no wrongdoing in alleged Muda land scam. Remember, you also had the Karnataka High Court who quashed the money laundering summons that was issued to Siddaramaiah's wife. Dharmasthala says, meet Home Minister Amit Shah, demands an NIA investigation and protection of the temple, claiming that a smear campaign was launched and there could be very well an outsider's hand to tarnish the image of Dharmasthala. Prime Minister Modi and Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong mark 60 years of India-Singapore ties, discuss strengthening economic ties and enhancing collaboration in new and forward-looking areas. Criminal complaint has been filed against Sonia Gandhi over alleged voter forgery in voter enrollment, claiming that her name was on the voters list in 80 while she became a citizen of India in 83. So how did she get a chance to vote much before she became a citizen? Questions being asked. IIT Madras tops NISF rankings for 7th year. The IISc Bengaluru ranked best university and research institute in India. Afghanistan death toll from after earthquake has jumped to 2,205. Hundreds of bodies recovered from rubble. The country there grappling with intense rains, floods and earthquake. Indian tennis star Yuki Bomri creates history at the US Open, makes maiden entry into Grand Slam semi-final. Main accused in Friends star Matthew Perry overdose case, Jasween Sangha pleads guilty, admits to supplying lethal ketamine dose to the Friends star through a third party. All right, let me start with the GST reforms. Our biggest story of the day, in fact, the entire country's eyes on it, on what's to get cheaper. We could say almost everything. India's GST Council has rolled out historic overhaul that will touch every home and business, from cheaper essentials to relief on housing and even support for EVs. This new GST reform, which is called GST 2.0, next-gen GST, that's what the centre calls it, promises to be both people-friendly and growth-oriented. The new system kicks in on September 22nd, the first day of Navratri, is designed to shape India's taxation for the next decade. 4 slabs have now collapsed into just 2, that's 5% and 18%. Sin goods and luxury goods basically will have a 40% slab. So this clarity means fewer disputes, less paperwork and simpler compliance. Especially for small businesses, it's a huge relief. In fact, this is a bold simplification that makes the economy easier to navigate now. If I could tell you, daily essentials from milk, bread, butter, toiletries, footwear, all that falls under 2,500 rupees now come under 5% GST. Agricultural equipment, medical devices all get relief. Even life and health insurance premiums are fully exempt. Families will feel this immediately with lower spending in the festive season and, of course, more money at hand now. GST on ACs, large TVs, dishwashers, cement, and even small cars and motorcycles up to 350cc has now been slashed from 28% to 18%. Also, home buyers, they will have to jump with joy because it seems like GST has been cut there as well. Home becomes more affordable, travel more affordable, domestic demand gets a push. These cuts are expected to boost consumption and spur manufacturing. That's the aim. Urban households also get a cheer. Affordable housing, like I said, projects and rental schemes now face lower GST. So if you're looking to buy a property, this could be the time, post-September 22nd. Electric vehicles and batteries. In fact, the entire automobile industry has got a huge relief with tax cut from earlier 28%. It's now come to 18% on many small and mid-level vehicles. Electric vehicles, batteries, chargers, they all stay on concessional rates. EV is in fact largely at 5%. So that's huge. It's in a way India's push for green energy, reinforcing India's green push here. Together, these measures, of course, looking for India to push towards sustainability and a smarter choice to make with going electric. Well, the council has also drawn a hard line on consumption of harmful tobacco, pan masala, carbonated drinks, aerated drinks like Pepsi, Coca-Cola. All of that now will come under 40% slab, 40% GST. The steep levy generates revenue, of course, on one hand for the states, funds healthcare, and in a way discourages addiction. Importantly, a new GST appellate tribunal, GSTAT, will now resolve disputes faster and more fairly. In fact, we hear states like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, multiple states, in fact, all across states will surely now see higher revenue because things will change, demand will increase, revenue will increase for the states. Some states, though, also have claimed that this is going to be a dent to the state exchequer and they hope for the government, central government to compensate. So that's a whole topic of conversation separately. But, well, for the common man by and large, this is a huge thumbs up. How does India stack up globally? Many nations like New Zealand run GST just one standard rate that they have. Like, for example, New Zealand has 15% GST across the board, across products. India's earlier structure with multiple rates and exclusions made India's GST the most complex in the world. But now with the central government coming to collapsing all those multiple slabs into just 2 main slabs, finally, India fits in with many other countries. Though India still follows a unitary system, unlike abroad. Many of them abroad have one system only across the board, but India has dual state and center GST. So, GST 2.0 is not just a tax reform, it's a full reset as per experts. Let me bring in our thought leaders in this space. Joining me to discuss a little more, Dilip Chenoy, former Secretary of FICCI, former Secretary General FICCI. We also have Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, Consulting Editor, The Business Standard, and Adik Kothari, Foreign Affairs Expert, joining us live from London. Trump tariffs pushing India into simplifying GST. Though I've asked this question to others before, but they said this was anyway in the making. It was to come. GST reforms was on the mind of the centre for a while, and finally it's come because there was a lot of heat that the centre also had to face over the years. Many of them slamming this as the most complex fixed GST format in the world. I gave an example of New Zealand, barely, well, I wouldn't say barely, well, it's 15% across the board, hardly any concession on any product. So New Zealand had one simplified GST slab and everything fits under that. But India had many slabs and many exclusions. So it made it so difficult for people to, first of all, understand the system. But now they've simplified it. If Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, would you want to jump in on that and give us your sense on the relief and the impetus it would give to the Indian economy? You're on mute.
Relief is the right word. That is a huge change that has been done. In fact, what was expected from the pieces that got written before in the run-up to the GST meeting to what finally came up was much more dramatic.
Yeah.
So obviously, both the centre and the state finance ministers kept their cards close to their chest, and that's something that has been pleasant. I want to look at it now. We have now 24 hours almost into the announcements. The thing that now would be very significant is how does industry react to the GST? There's been so much of discussion on this thing. There's naturally the media is talking about it. There's in the social media, there's a lot of discussions. In houses, there are a lot of discussions. It is now very significant that companies actually make measurable changes in their price lines. And this is going to be a very significant thing to watch out for. Because if that doesn't come through, and I'm sure it will come through, but if that doesn't come through, then that can be an extremely big blowback for the entire exercise. Because we are talking about rise in consumption, we are talking about people taking now bold bets across the spectrum, from lower middle class to the upper middle class, everybody. Every sort of good has got a cut, even luxury goods like cars, the big cars, even their effective tax is actually lower. Given all that, if now it is now up to the companies, and I'm really saying the companies to show that there's been a measurable change in the price line. Because, the inflation is also very low.
Yeah.
It's just 1.4. And if given that sort of inflation, so benign inflation, a huge tax cut, and this is really huge, if the prices do not start to show up, and we see, excuses, obviously there'll be excuses, the fact that there are unsold stocks, those have to be cleaned out. There are other issues of input tax credit which have to be taken care of. And of course, some will be genuine. But the big thing would be that what is it that ultimately reaches the people? So this is going to be the big discussion going ahead into the festival season. Do people start really feeling that prices have come down?
Unless companies don't increase prices of products, then why won't it come down?
No, the big point is that when a cut is happened, supposing from 18%, so it's say 5% or 12% to 5%.
Yeah.
I understand that it's not the exact one-to-one correspondence. You don't get the price cut by the same rate.
Yeah.
But that is where the challenge is. I can understand the fast-moving items. There, the ticket size is small. So there, the prices would be very little. But in terms of anything else, the prices should reflect the changes. And India is a very price-sensitive economy.
Yeah.
So prices must start showing across the range. As wide a range as we are talking about. We shouldn't have to come back after some time to talk about the fact that price changes were announced on so many. How many have been the ones where there's been a real measurable cut? And I'm talking about a cut in prices, not about holding prices constant. The companies have two ways of looking at it. They can say that we haven't raised prices, even though there was an occasion to raise it. We have simply translated it as a measure of the GST rationalization. We have kept the prices flat, and going ahead, it'll be there. That I don't think is going to satisfy people. Okay. There's going to be a serious issue there, and then a lot of give and take between the government, between industry, between the consumer, and lots of other. The discussion could tend to get a bit messy. So I think it's now time for India Inc. to start looking at not only that, yes, the government has cut the rates, how much can I make it also seem real in terms of the change at the retail price. That is going to be a very big measure of the success of this entire exercise. And this is a very big exercise that has been done. Yes.
Let me also bring in Dilip on that. Dilip, do you believe that 40% slab on sin goods particularly and luxury goods really impact demand or only shifts it to the informal sector? He said that 40% tax on sin goods and luxury goods is also less than what it was previously. Would you break it down for that? What does that mean?
So there are two issues there in the 40% tax. There are some goods which are not taxed at 40%, right? Even if you take the like for example, aerated drinks and non-alcoholic beverages, etc., which actually have been put in that category. And of course, the other category of goods like alcohol and tobacco, and alcohol is not in the GST, but tobacco and other products which are there. So I think here what you're going to see is even in that, right? Because some of them are so sensitive to prices, you might not see that much of a price increase. I think companies in the short term may actually, not increase it, by that much amount to offset the entire increase in GST. Yes, there will be some sectors which have been taken to 40%, which will, you'll see them saying that, we are not a sin good or we're not there. And very interestingly, the IPL tickets also have got 40% GST. So that's a different kind of a thing. But on the point that Shubhaboy made, if I can come back to that, Nabila, for a point, that I believe that industry will pass on the benefits. Yes, he did mention about some of the MRP pricing, which is there, which is already on the packaging, etc. There would be a short-term challenge there because you can't really change everything by the 22nd, etc. There are things out in the market. But I believe that you will see significant price cuts, and especially in the auto industry, which has really been...
Yeah, I see that the auto industry will have a huge boost. But what's this bike above 350cc? They will be under the 40% slab. I see a lot of them actually condemning this because all fancy bikes are in that price, and India is fancy. Now you have bikers across the country now, and they want to upgrade, and 40% could be steep.
Yeah, that's a very interesting classification. Possibly, I don't know what the thought process behind that is, because a lot of those bikes are even used by the defense services and the police forces, right? Because they are powerful and they actually meet their needs, etc. So we have to see, what that is. It is a people. There are some manufacturers who only make that category. So obviously they're going to be impacted in terms of that. But if you take the GST plus cess, which was there earlier, possibly it's a 1 percentage point or 2 percentage point lower than what it was earlier, at least for the high-end cars. For the two-wheelers, one will have to actually figure out what exactly is the implication.
So excuse me on that. Basically, what I read is for cheap, low-entry and medium-level vehicles, for bikes and cars, it all falls flat under GST, 18% GST. Only above 350cc, above 1200 cc engine for cars, or 1400, 1500 cc engine for cars. Those are the ones that will fall under 40%. But there also there was another cess anyway that we would give for luxury cars earlier, which was 17 to 18% above the 28%, and that would culminate to 50% on the whole. But now this is, with the new introduction, it's 40% flat. So even in that sense, it's coming down only.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's coming down there. But on the engine size, there's also a small car definition, not only engine but also size, length.
Okay. Okay. Shubhamoy, would you want to clarify on that? I will come to Mr. Kothari in just a moment on the global implications here. But Shubhamoy, your take on automobile industry really getting a huge boost. What does this mean? Do you think this will increase demand? Are people really going to be buying more cars and vehicles? Festive season is here, I understand. But how does this really impact or push demand in that sense?
Well, the point is that I looked at all the prices of all cars in the high end, and everybody's tax liability has come down. And that's the point. There's just no manufacturer for no product whose aggregate taxes have increased. So there is definitely a case for reduction in prices. Now, point is, for the high-end cars, the price is important, but what people also do buy is that this is the category where the buyer can afford to take in those prices. The big point is that, after all, if this GST thing wasn't done, if there wasn't a balance created, there are 5 items for which taxes, indirect taxes in India, actually make up the entire kitty: alcohol, petroleum, electricity, tobacco, and automobiles. These are the 5 items from which most of the taxes come. Of these, 3 are out of the GST. 2, automobiles and tobacco, are in the GST. Tobacco is a different category. In automobiles too, electric vehicles have been allowed to stay at 5%. That's a huge, so the difference has actually increased.
And but who's buying EVs, sir? Are we really headed towards the EV?
So that's the point. There's a huge change that has been clearly been pushed when other countries, Europe, and if people are wanting to, sort of have a tab that I'm progressive and I'm whatever, then I suppose it's good for them to shift to EV. Europe has made it the prices of petroleum cars, petrol-based cars, diesel-based cars. I mean, they've clearly said by 2035 they want to phase those out entirely.
Yeah.
Given that sort of a system, we are talking about EVs coming in. These EVs are globally comparable. Then obviously people can go in for EV. So I don't really see where the challenge is for a buyer of a car who has the cash in their pocket. And obviously these are people we're talking about who have the cash in their pocket. So they can jolly well pay a higher tax, and essentially there's no higher tax. The cess has been enveloped within the overall tax. So actually there's no way, and I saw the CEO of Mercedes India making a statement. He put it up on the social media, Twitter, that we shall be reworking the price and coming up with the new price level as early as tonight. And I suspect that those numbers would have already come. So
God knows, Mercedes just never changes its brackets. They're so confident that Indians are still going to buy. It's the most sought after luxury vehicle in the country.
But the point that they are clearly, they wouldn't have made that statement unless Mercedes says that I want to changing the price. That I want to make a positive
now
statement.
They have tough competition with the Korean-made cars, and they're as good with the finest of features.
So those guys can afford to do it, and it's 350cc. Incidentally, Dilip made that point about the police and the defense vehicles. By the way, that's the classificational structure there is different because it's on the retail price, and so their prices are actually in any case subsidized by the state. So they can afford to. In terms of sports enthusiasts being able to or not able to buy a higher tax, I mean, I don't think that's really relevant here. The entire process was to give relief to the middle class, the lower middle class. Unlike an income tax, which serves only a very few percentage of the population, a GST change affects much larger percentage of the population. This is the real budget. This is not income tax for all its optics affects very few, so that's not really there. It is this which actually makes a change in people's lives, and that's why I'm saying I hope that industry fulfills its part of the bargain and shows cuts in the prices of all sorts of goods where they have been given that substantial relief in terms of the tax rates, as well as making it simplified. The input tax credit system has been made much more simplified. So that also,
as much as you have your apprehensions, I think the larger sentiment I get here is that the industry giants will pass on the benefits to people because they all need to survive, and everyone's for the country's growth. The economy grows, these companies grow. It's only going to generate a lot of demand, especially during the festive season. I think it will have a big impact. So companies will comply, in my view, from what I see and understand and learn of the GST here. Adit, your take now on the international or global, perception that India has sent out with GST cuts like this right after Trump tariffs of 50%. We have been hit. Large-scale exports has been stalled to the United States. So internally now with GST reworking, do you believe that we are able to absorb this shock that US has pushed on us?
So, Nabila, I think we had a discussion right after the Independence Day announcement. And I think the trajectory was clear that, it's a push to enhance the internal consumption in order to sort of offset these Trump tariff tantrums or whatever they are. So in essence, the GST 2.0 or the reset will sort of create that sort of boost. Inherently, Trump's tariff tantrums has created that sort of a shock opportunity for India to sort of increase its internal economic activities. So all in all, it will impact the spending patterns in India. It will also impact manufacturing, which in turn will also create employability and employment opportunities. So as your consumption increases, as your spending increases, there is an automatic drive for industry to sort of also expand and put in new manufacturing units, and thereby, your employment opportunities will also increase. Now, the question is, whether it will actually truly offset the kind of hit that the Trump tariffs are going to cause to the Indian GDP. Maybe in the short term, not. But it's a really good step. It's a positive step. Immediate effects are going to be on those textile and leather industries. Specifically, people based off Tirupur, Agra, etc., who are producing goods and sending it to exporting it to the United States of America. So circa 66 billion out of the circa 90 billion of export goods which are currently being exported to the United States are going to be impacted. I think the government needs to mull over what kind of tax holidays or sort of tax reliefs that they actually can build for them, can pass on to them from a benefit perspective. But all in all, I think we need to remember that with an increase of consumption patterns, the positive impact is going to be towards manufacturing, towards consumption in general. And also, foreign firms will want to sort of exploit this particular opportunity. So they would possibly look to possibly set up shops in India and sort of look at this mass market that we have. So far, a lot of foreign firms had been they had inhibitions because of the complex structures that we had in place in India with regards to the GST setup. Even setting up a GST at this point is still very complicated. So a lot of companies did have those inhibitions. With the two-slab system, it sort of it reduces it drastically. So hopefully that will encourage more sort of foreign manufacturers and companies to set up shop in India.
Yeah, and Dilip, would you reckon, does India's move to simplify GST make us look more investment friendly to global businesses now?
Yeah, absolutely. And Emilia, just on a lighter note, this GST has actually addressed the issue between man-made fibers and cotton. So a lot of the textiles that were not being made here because of the differential and not there, those textiles also would be made here because now it makes it competitive to make those textiles here. I think one of the challenges in the Indian ecosystem was that we are a large economy, but while purchasing power parity and all that is important, this has actually lowered enabling you to lower the price of goods, which enables you to actually take advantage of the scale of the market. And therefore, I believe that people find it more attractive to come in at these price points than earlier.
Yeah.
And of course, like Adit said, it'll give a boost to manufacturing, it'll give a boost to employment creation. But, you should also take the caution which Shubhamoy actually talked about. And I think at least now what we are hearing, other than the one or two sectors where the prices have gone up, most people are saying they're going to pass on the benefits to the consumers. Some of them even said immediately, like you heard, this thing not waiting for the thing to be implemented from the 22nd of September.
Okay. All right. First day of Navratri, that's when it'll kick in. Very predictable of this government. Anything on an auspicious day, they make big announcements, and that's what they've done just ahead of Navratri. They've made this announcement. It will start off on the first day of Navratri. Let's just hope the festivities, the happiness really trickles down to the common man. I really appreciate all of you joining us. That's all we have time for here today. Thank you. Thank you. We're slipping into a short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
तो अपने सोने को काम पे लगाइए, आज ही कॉल कीजिए 1-800-313-1212 पर।
The power of Digi-Alkaline from Nippo Thor.
Beautiful.
18th century और अभी तक चल रही है।
ज्यादा नहीं चलेगी।
कुछ का
प्रोमिनेंस नहीं।
प्रोमिनेंस।
वाओ, ओरिजिनल।
या स्पेन से लाए थे।
वहीं छोड़ा थे। प्रोमिनेंस नहीं है ना?
प्रोमिनेंस?
मैं कहना चाह रहा था कि प्रोमिनेंस नहीं है।
प्रोमिनेंस मतलब
प्रोमिनेंस विंडोज, इसमें है हाईएस्ट वेदर रेजिस्टेंस और घर को रखे सेफ फ्रॉम टर्माइट, सीपेज, डस्ट एंड नॉइस। प्रोमिनेंस फॉर द वर्ल्ड यू डिजर्व।
dreaming about me.
Love is to get lost in the look. Unlimit Love. B6 Pack 2 starts at 21.9 lakh. Mahindra Electric Origin SUVs.
Welcome back. In fact, the world has long wondered, how does Vladimir Putin, well into his 70s, still look so young and fit? Martial arts maybe, cosmetic fillers probably, but a leaked video which Xi Jinping may have revealed what's really on Putin's mind. As Xi and Putin walked between Kim Jong-un in Tiananmen, well, they all met for China's Victory Day parade. We understand live microphones caught a very unusual exchange between Putin and Xi. It was not about geopolitics, but about immortality, how to live forever. Putin was heard saying, with the development of biotechnology, human organs can be continuously transplanted. People could get younger as they grow older, maybe even become more, they could live longer, they could become immortal. That's what Putin said. To which Xi replied, this century, it may be possible to live 150 years. Then in Mandarin, he responded, at 70, in this age, in fact, at this generation, 70 years, we still feel like a child. If I could play out that audio for you, though it's not in English, but listen in.
是行企业行一个新次元全力发展，人类的器官会不断的移植，甚至越活越年轻，甚至会长生不老。来预测呢，本世纪呢，可能另外可以活到150岁。
Well, that was an exchange there, candid exchange between Putin and Xi Jinping. Remember, for Putin, longevity is not a casual interest. He's directed his government to focus on life expectancy. He himself is a hardcore fitness freak. In fact, Russian state labs have been asked, like Rosatom, to explore 3D printed human organs. Experts warn, though, that replacing human organs will not stop the brain and body from aging, which is why the next frontier is not just lifespan, but health span. The years that you live free from disease. That's more important. Medicine is shifting from reactive treatment to proactive, data-driven wellness, personalized diets, continuous tracking of early interventions. This is what basically the protocol is to live a longer life. Remember, Brian Johnson, the American tech entrepreneur, he spends millions of rupees or dollars on extreme anti-aging experiments. He's determined to live forever and look younger. Even he's in his late 40s now, touching 50, and his biometrics show as if he's a 20-year-old. That's how much he's done to himself, of course, through science and all sorts of cosmetic interventions. He's managed to look that young. But will that help him be immortal? How long will that help him stay alive and young? Well, science really, can it make us immortal? The question is, of course, still being researched extensively. Or is the real challenge here not extending life, but extending the quality of life? And that's precisely what health experts now talk about today. It's not about looking young. It's about feeling fit at whatever age you are. You've got to be mobile. Even if you're at 150 years of age, if you've changed your organs and you're living so long, are you fit enough in your brain, your health, your mind and body? Is it fit enough to actually be alive at 150? Or you're just vegetated state? Two different things. Joining me tonight to give us a little more, Dr. Manjari Chandra, Senior Consultant, Nutritional Medicine of Ever Hope Oncology and Max Healthcare. We also have Dr. Ravi Mohanka, Director, Liver Transplant, Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital, Mumbai. Thank you both of you for joining us. Let me first start with Dr. Manjari Chandra. Manjari, please give us your take on what we see. It's of course has geopolitical connotations. Imagine Putin wanting to govern forever, wanting to be the president of Russia forever. Xi Jinping having similar ambitions, says that in today's day anything is possible, both having a very candid chat, and they're very serious. Both of them in their respective countries, in China and Russia, have extensively researched into methods of living long, organ transplant, cosmetic surgeries. They have the best of it. Do you believe that just organ transplant, changing your kidneys or anything else, can actually help you live a long life up to 150? Is it that easy if you have the money?
Good evening. No, thank you for the question. That's a little far-fetched to say, but there are a lot of scientific research and backing now. There's enough information to make us understand that the human health is really dependent on our choices, our daily choices of nutrition, lifestyle, movement, circadian rhythm, the toxins we expose our body to, the epigenetic factors that will cause the changes in our genetic predisposition. So I may be born to a certain set of parents with a certain set of genes, but whether I will succumb to the diseases that they have, or whether I can make my own trajectory in terms of health, is something that science is now being able to prove more and more. And we know that continuous good choices of lifestyle, nutrition, sleep intervention, stress management, toxin reduction, these basic principles also have a long role to play not just in disease prevention, but in longevity, as we call it, which essentially means that you not just live longer, but you live healthier. You live with optimal health without being dependent on medications or any form of medical intervention. And that is, I think, one of the things that a lot of people are looking at. At work, in our clinical work, of course, a lot of people talk to us about longevity, about, overall better health. The beauty of this is that it still boils down to basics. It still boils down to those denominators which govern our bioregulatory systems, the way our body responds to what we do. And it's quite doable, even for most people, even though they may not have access to the best technology, the best team of physicians and doctors, which, of course, Mr. Putin and other world leaders have. But even for normal people, we do have an option of giving them, a very good long lifespan. There are a lot of bioregulatory systems that have been detailed studies. We have the mTOR pathway, we have the AMPK pathway, we have a lot of longevity pathways that we've been able to decode. And we also know what factors modulate them. So yeah, it's not conceptual, it is there, but I think in this case, it is a little too far-fetched.
Okay. Dr. Ravi, organ transplant, you'd be the best to speak on that. How easy is it, or how difficult is it, as Putin makes it sound as if it's nothing? If you have the money, and today science is so advanced, and they're anyway looking into 3D organ design. I'm not too sure how or where that's going, but give us a little sense. It's so difficult to find an organ in the first place, and here you have Russia looking into 3D organs.
So organ transplants have been immensely successful. In the last 50 years, we have made such great progress. Typically, organ which used to last for a few years in the past, now it lasts you a lifetime. And rejections have become less of a problem as we go along, as we have better medicines. And now it's almost always possible to predict how long a certain organ will last after a transplant. And even repeated transplants are quite successful now. So having said all this, there is a lot of focus now on not organ replacement, but prevention of damage at an earlier stage. And that can be achieved with nanobots, and also with some stem cell therapy in certain situations for tissue repair, which is where regenerative medicine is heading. So prevention of organ damage or and replacement of a certain organ when they reach end stage failure, those are the two things that are making a big impact. Although at one point Ray Kurzweil has predicted that by 2030 reach mortality. We are very close to 2030, and it doesn't look like we are going to get there. But
are we getting there in 2050?
I think so. So he did predict
We're on
that
track.
We should, yeah. And by 2050, it is very likely. In fact, there are certain organs which are single function organs, such as your pancreas, your kidney, and even your heart. So those organs are going to be, you can have a mechanical device which can replace those functions. Other organs such as liver that do multiple functions, it's more difficult. But there is a lot of progress happening, especially in bioprinting. Although we haven't reached there, but things are going to change very dramatically in the next.
So in your view, Putin doesn't sound very far-fetched.
Oh yeah, he has access to technology which we don't really currently do, and experiments that they do are closely guarded, especially in China and Russia compared to what the rest of the world does. So they have access to stem cells which are even in the US and other parts of the world we don't have access to. So
okay, but what's that one thing? What's that one thing beyond organ transplant? What's that one thing that limits the human body from defying age?
So it's your day-to-day living practically, like it was discussed. But if you look at cellular level, then inside each chromosome there is something called as telomere. And the length of the telomere is what determines how long you're going to live. So the longer the length of telomere, the longer the person lives. And there are now people doing experiments where they do a certain intervention and look at the telomere length and stuff like that. So there are a lot of work happening in wellness space, in longevity space, especially in the last 10 years. And we're going to get there. What we don't know is when.
Okay, realistically, 150 sounds not so far because a lot of Indians are living up to 150. I mean, I wouldn't say lots, but there are cases, and they're doing absolutely fine. At least 125. I've heard of a friend's grandfather who's 125, and still understanding, walking, talking, just being. He's still alive. So it's not so far-fetched in your view, and that makes us wonder if immortality is really going to be the new reality. But yet, even at 150 also, you'll still die, right? After 150?
At this point, yes.
Or will there be a way to live even in mummy state?
No, so I think it's not worthwhile living in a mummy state. It's either you live well or you don't.
Yeah.
And that's where all the research is headed.
And that's precisely what our question was today, that it's not just about long life, it's about being fit. And also, people think that looking young when you're older is really the aim, but that's not the aim. You could look, however, but it's all about how you feel inside that really matters. So finally, Dr. Manjari, to extend your life, can we truly preserve, even if we do the organ transplant and whatnot, and our body is fit, can our mind be fit? How far do you believe our brain function can carry us forward?
Yeah, that's also extremely interesting, actually, as he was also mentioning that, we have telomeres, which are the end of our chromosomes in our DNA, and the telomere length is a marker of the length of our lives, the health of our lives, and how long we live. There are similar other markers. A very interesting pathway is the sirtuin pathway, which is essentially the housekeeping genes. So in our body, in our DNA, in our genetic material, we have some genes which are SIRT genes. They are the housekeeping genes. And this sirtuin pathway is dependent on something called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, the NAD, which is the building block to the sirtuins. Now, we know for sure that there are certain foods that can improve sirtuin activity. We also know for sure that long hours of fasting and controlling the frequency of eating can improve your sirtuin activity, which means that if you're able to choose lifestyle and food and nutrition in a way that you activate these pathways like the sirtuins or the length of the telomeres, the biochemical level or the bioregulatory level at which our body ages does get altered. So you're able to push that envelope a little bit, and you're able to sort of, activate those pathways that deaccelerate aging. And that is where the science already knows enough. And we also thankfully know what the interventions in lifestyle and nutrition look like. So I'm really not the expert to talk about organ transplant, so I wouldn't really say anything there. But what I know, and I've been doing, and we've been doing and reading and studying in integrative functional medicine, is that there are a lot of pathways that can be addressed. I'll also give you another smaller example. There's a lot of talk about eating a lot of protein, but do you know that when a person consumes excess protein, they also activate aging because they activate a pathway called the mTOR pathway, which is an aging pathway. Similarly, for people who have visceral fat, they also have accelerated aging because they are activating the inflammatory pathways. So there are a lot of bioregulatory pathways that can be addressed with lifestyle and nutritional choices, which are quite primitive in nature. The choices are very basic to make, but the impact is quite significant. And this science exists. And, if it was put properly and, and put around to people, it really gives people a chance to live longer and live disease.
Very, very well said. I think both of you all have articulated this very well. Both believe if you follow the right practice, right lifestyle, you could very well live a long, decade, I mean, much into a century. If at all you're healthy, you're living a good lifestyle, then you don't even need an organ transplant to live long. And I think many Indians have proven that. A good lifestyle is what's key to even keep your brain health good. Thank you very much for joining us with those thoughts. Let me cut across to all the top stories on Day Tonight. Let me start with West Bengal Assembly. We're looking at the ugliest face-off that happened today, the BJP calling it the Black Day. Uproar in West Bengal Assembly. It was so severe, allegedly left BJP Chief Whip Sankar Ghosh injured. In fact, the House descended into chaos with slogans, barbs, disruptions over illegal immigration, Bengali language row and allegations of voter theft. 5 BJP MLAs, including Ghosh and Agnimitra Paul, were suspended and dragged out by the marshals. The ruckus has only escalated when a bottle was reportedly hurled from the ruling benches. The drama peaked as an ambulance rushed into the assembly after Ghosh's health deteriorated. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee tore into the BJP, branding them corrupt vote chores and warning that one day not a single BJP MLA will be left in the assembly. These were the words spoken. She even urged the speaker to telecast BJP's protest live, calling this outright hooliganism. In fact, suspended leader of opposition Suvendu Adhikari responded saying legal action will be taken against Mamata Banerjee for this.
करने के लिए, SIR रोकने के लिए और देश से घुसपैठिया इलीगल इन्फिल्ट्रेटर्स को हटाने के लिए जो कोशिश भारत सरकार कर रहा है, उसको रोकने के लिए उन्होंने ये प्रस्ताव लाया। लेकिन LLP को सस्पेंड किया। उन्होंने सोचा था जो मैं एक बोलूंगा और पूरा बंगाल को भ्रम पैदा करूंगा, गुमराह करने का काम करूंगा। लेकिन बीजेपी का सब MLA एक साथ आज राष्ट्रवादी सिपाही होने का नाते सब LLP का भूमिका ले लिया और ममता बनर्जी का खिलाफ अंदर बाहर बहुत आज जो मुद्दा उठाना चाहता ये था ममता सैराचारी, ममता चोर, ममता भ्रष्टाचारी, ममता देश विरोधी, ये नारा हम लोग उठाया।
All right, cutting across to Manipur, fresh tripartite pact has been signed between the centre, the state government and the Kuki-Zo groups to restore peace and stability in Manipur. The suspension of operations agreement comes with strict ground rules. Territorial integrity of Manipur will be maintained. National Highway 2 will be kept open for free movement and military camps will be relocated and reduced. Security forces will now verify cadres to weed out foreign nationals while a joint monitoring group will oversee implementation. The Kuki-Zo Council has promised full cooperation, including moving camps to help normal life return. Officials have warned only any violation of the pact will invite firm action. This development comes, of course, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to visit the Northeast, first inaugurating Mizoram's Bairabi-Sairang railway line while heading to Manipur. The pact is being seen as a major step towards healing ethnic divides and that in fact erupted in May 2023 when clashes broke out between Meiteis and Kukis. With Manipur now under President's rule since February, the new agreement signals a fresh attempt at reconciliation and peace. Now in Hyderabad, she teams, the women-led teams of police in Hyderabad have shown just how serious they are about women's safety during Ganesh festivities. In the last 7 days alone, nearly 900 miscreants were caught near the iconic Khairatabad Ganesh Pandal. Of them, 55 men were caught red-handed, harassing and molesting some women devotees. Police say many offenders were counselled, but repeat violators have been booked and will now face court. Round-the-clock security has been deployed through the immersion processes and the procession process. The She team, women team in Hyderabad, the in-charge Lavanya has issued stern warning saying zero tolerance for harassment, strict action against anyone indulging in such acts. Women have also urged, in fact the police there also urging women to call 100 immediately if they face any such behavior. We'd certainly say kudos to Hyderabad police and the She Teams for standing guard and ensuring women can celebrate safely. We are really hoping that women police teams are there round the clock, because we know that it's not just such events that you have these perpetrators lurking. Women face harassment on regular days too, in buses, on roads, outside colleges. We're just hoping that people take collective effort to crack down the way women police have done it in Hyderabad. Men should also pull up those other men who are preying. Well, if men think that they can get away with such behavior, at least the Hyderabad police here is proof that they can't slip away so easy. All these men now, 55 of them behind bars. The rest of them who have promised to correct their behavior have been let go. Habitual offenders stay in the police station for the long haul. Now, in Karnataka, after R.V. Deshpande's shocker in his statement, you're looking at another Karnataka MLA, BJP MLA BP Harish from Karnataka, making some insulting remarks against the Superintendent of Police Uma Prashant. An FIR has been filed against the MLA at KTJ Nagar police station following a formal complaint lodged by the SP. In fact, the BJP MLA, the Harihar MLA, reportedly made the remarks during a press conference accusing the officer of ignoring him at an official event while extending special treatment to Congress leader. Harish's comments reportedly comparing the SP to a Pomeranian dog waiting at the gate has drawn strong criticism and sparked an FIR. Let's listen in to what he said.
SP ಅವರು ಮಾಡೋದು ನೋಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಬ್ಬ ಶಾಸಕರು ಸಭೆಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಮುಖ ತಿರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಅದೇ ಶಾಮನೂರ್ ಮತದವರು ಒಂದೊಂದು ಗಂಟೆ ಗೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಾದು ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದನ್ನು ಸೇಮ್ ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆ ಪಾಮರಿನ್ ನಾಯಿ ತರ ವರ್ತನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
Has been registered under multiple sections of BNS. We know Harish, of course, has justified this. Of course, this comes also a second case after Karnataka's R.V. Deshpande also made a very sexist remark against a journalist who asked for a hospital to be built. He said, when your time comes of when you get pregnant, we'll make a hospital at that point, which was derogatory, sexist and highly condemned. All right, let me cut across to now the Supreme Court on monsoon mayhem. As we're looking at rains wreaking havoc across multiple states across the country, the Supreme Court has taken cognizance of it. Let me tell you, the Supreme Court has looked at very closely, taking suo moto cognizance of the devastating floods and landslides across Punjab, Himachal, Uttarakhand and Jammu and Kashmir. Chief Justice B.R. Gawai, along with Justices J.V. Pardiwala and Manoj Mishra, highlighting disturbing visuals showing timber and logs flowing downstream, raising fears of illegal trees felling and chaos, basically saying that it is all man-made, this destruction. The court noted unprecedented rains and flooding have caused widespread destruction, particularly in villages, at farmlands in Punjab. Notices have now been issued to affected states, directing them to respond within 3 weeks to see what kind of illegal work has happened in terms of illegal tree felling and illegal construction. That's what led to this chaos. Central agencies and National Highways Authority of India have also been made parties in this case. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta has remarked, "We have interfered with nature so much that now it is giving back." The court has requested photographs and videos from flood-hit areas to assess the environmental damage and unplanned development. The matter will be heard again in 3 weeks' time. Supreme Court emphasizing that there is urgent need to balance development with environmental protection. On that note, that's it for me right here. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great night.
Papa, let's go to the happy birthday.